Dazu Huike, 487 to 593, is remembered as the second patriarch of Zen and the principal Dharma heir of the legendary Bodhidharma. Huike was born into a family of Taoist scholars in what is now Hunan Province, China, about a bit north of the sacred mountain of Songshan. As a young man, Huike also studied Confucianism along with Taoism. The deaths of his parents caused Huike to turn to Buddhism. In 519, when he was 32 years old, he became a Buddhist monk in a temple near Luoyang. About 8 years later, he left in search of Bodhidharma, and he found the first patriarch in his cave in Songshan, near the Shaolin Monastery. At the time of this meeting, Huike was about 40 years old. If you have heard of Huike at all, it's probably through the famous story of his first meeting with Bodhidharma. The legend says Huike found Bodhidharma meditating in his cave and patiently kept a vigil outside waiting for the elusive old sage to invite him in. When Huike came to Bodhidharma for training, he was berated by the master for his lack of commitment and ignorance of the severity of the training. Although Huike's response made him the first disciple of Zen, it was also to his great personal cost. A little about Bodhidharma before we move on with the story on Huike. There are several popular traditions about the exact origin of Bodhidharma. According to one, Bodhidharma was born as a Tamil prince in a South Indian state. He awakened his kundalini, a spiritual energy or life force located at the base of the spine, and renounced royal life to become a monk. The Tibetan version similarly characterizes him as a dark-skinned Siddha, a realized person, from South India. It is said that after leaving the imperial palace, Bodhidharma crossed the Yangtze River on a piece of straw and went to a cave close to the Shaolin Monastery in the province of Huike. Here he sat for 9 years, sitting so ardently that his legs rotted away. Another story goes that when he fell asleep during zazen, sitting meditation, he cut off his eyelashes, and where they fell the tea bush sprang up. Hence why tea is served to the monks during the long sitting periods to keep them awake. Bodhidharma is regarded as the first in the line of teachers of Chinese Zen. In Chinese, the term Zen master also means dhyana master. Bodhidharma was the first Indian Buddhist monk who presided as an abbot of Shaolin Temple after construction was finished in 496. A few years later, Bodhidharma arrived at Shaolin Temple, where he undertook his famous 9-year cave meditation. Back to Huike. Standing outside the cave, Huike shouted out asking for the teachings, but Bodhidharma ignored him. To show his resolve, Huike kept standing there outside the cave as the snow fell. All through the night he stood until in the morning the snow reached up to his knees. At this point Bodhidharma took pity on him and asked him what he wanted. Huike replied that he had come for the Dharma. Bodhidharma rebuked him, saying, "The old masters broke their bones and ground the very marrow of them for the Dharma, yet you with your half-hearted efforts come to demand it." We must understand that Bodhidharma was testing Huike. Just how determined was he for the great treasure store of the Dharma? Huike's response was to take out his sword, which everyone carried in those days, and to cut off his right arm at the elbow. But what would I give to attain to the Dharma? So Bodhidharma asks Huike, "What is it you have come for?" Huike, "My heart is not at peace. Please pacify my heart." Bodhidharma, "Show me this heart and I will pacify it for you." Now we must presume that at this point Huike goes away to search for this heart. Other Zen masters have also used this method. The great Japanese Zen master Hakuin had a temper, but used a practice that whenever his temper flared he asked himself, "Now who has this temper?" He then searched for this owner. In effect, this is the same method, only Huike is looking for the one whose heart is restless. The one who has this restless heart, who owns it, can command it and bring it before Bodhidharma. But what is discovered is that this heart has no owner, vast emptiness. So Huike returns and says, "I cannot find it." Then came the famous exchange, "Your disciple's mind has no peace as yet." Huike said, "Master, please, put it to rest." Bodhidharma said, "Bring me your mind, and I will put it to rest." Huike said, "I have searched for my mind, but I cannot find it." Bodhidharma said, "I have completely put it to rest for you." Huike studied with Bodhidharma at Shaolin for 6 years. In time, Bodhidharma passed on the Buddha's robe and bowl to Huike, a sign that Huike was now Bodhidharma's Dharma heir and the second Chinese patriarch of the Chan, Zen, school, ready to begin teaching. According to Zen legend, the tradition of passing on Bodhidharma's robe and bowl to the next patriarch would continue until it stopped with the sixth and last patriarch. The Dharma transmission from Bodhidharma to Huike would have taken place in about 534. One of the oldest records about the second ancestor, Huike, is a stone memorial inscribed about the year 634 by a Buddhist priest named Falun. It praises him with the following verse: "Great teacher, though form was your vessel, mind was your virtue, always loyal to Buddha. Because you reached this teaching, you reached everywhere. For Dharma you gave your arm. Not retreating, you remained steadfast. With the truth that all mind is Buddha mind, all affairs are Buddha's affairs. In the belabored world this always shines." Huike Zen. You have truly comprehended the Dharma as it is. The deepest truth lies in the principle of identity. It is due to one's ignorance that the Mani jewel is taken for a piece of brick, but when one is suddenly awakened to self-enlightenment, it is realized that one is in possession of the real jewel. The ignorant and the enlightened are of one essence, they are not really to be separated. We should know that all things are such as they are. Those who entertain a dualistic view of the world are to be pitied, and I write this letter for them. When we know that between this body and the Buddha, there is nothing to separate one from the other, what is the use of seeking after nirvana as something external to ourselves? Bodhidharma's renown comes from his teaching: point directly at the human mind, see its nature, and become Buddha, a dictum long regarded as the taproot of Zen. Zen teachers from early times until now have credited this phrase to Bodhidharma. We find it on hundreds of paintings of him by the famous 17th century Japanese teacher, Hakuin. Thanks for your patience. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Raj Rishi.